Here we are live. Welcome back. Great to see you again, and thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about our most precious resource, time. So with that in mind, let's not waste any of it and get straight into this. I want you to think back to the Sunday just gone, Sunday evening. On Sunday evening, were you relaxed? Were you present? Were you enjoying your weekend? Or were you mentally already at work? Were you running through your Monday list? Were you worrying about the customer that you might have to speak to? Or maybe you were wondering about why you always feel like you're left behind. Now, if you're the second one, you're in exactly the right place today, because I want to talk to you about what I want to talk to you about isn't time management. It's something far more important than that. It's freedom. And I want to start by talking about something I don't always share, but I think it really matters, and it shows that I'm not talking about this as a theory. I'm talking about it because I've lived it, and it nearly cost me just about everything. During my first decade in business, I had 5 businesses, and I was averaging 80 to 90 hours a week. I think my record week was 107 hours. And here's the part that sort of still makes me smile about that. Looking back, the following week, because I was clearly a master of efficiency, I reduced that by just 1 hour to 106. I was quite a ninja of this time management stuff. But the cost was that I was like a zombie. And I didn't realise at the time, I wasn't just tired. I was operating at a fraction of my true capability. The quality of my thinking was compromised. The quality of my work was compromised. The quality of my leadership was compromised. Because I'd become the chief problem solver, the answer to everything. And I was terrified. I was really, really scared that if I let go even slightly, the whole thing could come crumbling down. But there was an even more expensive cost, one that hit me much harder than any of the business metrics I had. Because of all the hours I was working, I missed my kids growing up. I wasn't really known as dad, I was more known as who's he. And that's the real cost of not getting this right. Not the hours, not even the stress. It's the life you miss while you're busy being busy. So why am I sharing this with you today? It's because I did find a way through it. And by applying the exact tools I'm about to share with you in this live, I went from working 80, 90, 100 hours a week to running multiple businesses on no more than 20 hours a week. Yet there were weeks when I did more, but that's because I chose to put in more. The key bit there was I chose. There was always enough money in the budget for more team members if they were needed. The business had really strong systems in place. The people were more than capable. The business just wasn't dependent on me being there every hour, every day. And that's what I want for you too. So if you choose to apply, and that's a key word there, choose. If you choose to apply what I'm sharing with you today, I'll guarantee you this. You'll either significantly reduce the hours that you work, you significantly reduce the hours you work, and or you'll dramatically improve the financial performance of your business. Because you're going to be able to invest, keyword there, invest, not spend your time on high impact, high value work that actually moves the needle in your business. Actually, before I move on, something for you to consider. If you're not doing the high value, high impact work in your business, who is? Is it being left to chance, or heaven forbid, is it not happening at all? Okay, let me ask you, how many times in the past week have you said, and that could be in your head as well, have you said, I just don't have enough time? Because here's the thing. Every business owner on this planet gets exactly the same amount. It's 24 hours a day, it's 7 days a week, 168 hours every single week. You don't get any more hours because your business is growing, and you don't get any less hours because your business is quiet. Nobody gets more, nobody gets less. So that begs the question, why is it that some owners appear calm, organised and in control, while others appear like they're permanently sprinting just to stay still? And here's something I come to believe after years of working with business owners, and obviously from many years that I was getting it wrong myself. The problem isn't time. The problem is what you do with time. And the truth is, you don't need to master time. What you need to master is yourself. The clock doesn't stop. You can't control the clock. You can't make the days longer. But you can absolutely control what you focus on, what you prioritize, what you say yes to, what you say no to. Now, one of my favorite quotes about time is most important choice you ever make is what you choose to make important. The most important choice you make is what you choose to make important. I'm not certain, but I think it was Michael Neal that said that. And when we dig deeper, poor time management is rarely a diary problem. It's more likely to be things like a leadership problem, a delegation problem, a self-discipline problem. So let me tell you about a client of mine. Let's call him David. And David ran still does, run a successful building company. He was employing around about 30 people when we started working together. He had really good turnover. Profit was a bit thin on the ground when we started working together, but on paper, they were doing okay-ish. But the burning issue was that David was working 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. His phone never stopped ringing and pinging. His team were unable to make a decision without him. And his wife had started to call the business the other woman. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anyone. Now, when I first sat down with David, I asked him, how many hours would you actually want to work when your business is running properly? And he looked at me as though I'd asked him something in a foreign language, because he'd never really thought about it. He'd never actually defined it. He was like so many other business owners that work until the work is done. But there's a problem with that thinking, because the work is never done. Because there's always going to be another email, another customer, another problem, another opportunity. And if you don't decide when your working day ends, your business is going to decide that for you. And trust me, the business will happily take every hour that you give it. Think about this. Let's just imagine you had a goal, and your goal was to work no more than 4 days a week. How would that change the way you run your business? Or if you had a goal to be finished by 4 o'clock every day, what would need to change about your priorities? So if your goal was to take 6 weeks some holidays so that you can spend more time with the kids, what systems would need to exist? What leadership? What delegation? So clarity around the lifestyle that you want drives just about every decision you make. And owners never get that clarity because they're too busy being busy. Okay, let's just change tack a little bit and talk about how you can go about solving these problems. I want to start with a principle that I use with every client. The principle is T: time, energy, attention. These are 3 resources that every business owner has, but unlike money, once they're gone, they're gone. You never get them back. So the question is, who's drinking all your tea? Who or what gets your time? Who or what gets your energy? Who or what is getting your attention? Does your most important work get your best energy, or does your best energy go into things like emails, interruptions, other people's emergencies, and problems that could and should have been solved by someone else a long time ago? Because your job as the owner is not to be busy. Your job is to direct your best energy towards the highest value, highest impact work in your business. And that brings me actually to another thing that catches out a lot of business owners that I work with, and that's reactive work. Most owners spend their day reacting to things like emails, phone calls, to staff, to customers, to problems, to what shouts loudest, or to whatever lands in front of them first. And here's the dangerous part of that. Reactive work feels productive because you're moving, you're solving things, you're needed. But often that's just dependency in disguise. What you've done is you've actually trained the business to need you for everything. And slowly, quietly, your freedom disappears. And I know that for sure because I've lived it. I was the answer to everything. And I mistakenly told myself that that was good leadership. But it wasn't. It was just a trap. And here's another thing that sounds like good leadership, but it definitely isn't. The open door policy. My door is always open to anybody. Sounds great, doesn't it? Sounds nice. But the question you need to ask yourself is your open door creating empowerment or dependency on the people for the people around you? Because if your team is interrupting you umpteen times a day, they're not learning to solve problems, are they? They're just learning to ask you. So let's go back to David, the builder I mentioned earlier. This was a challenge for him. His door was constantly getting knocked. So what we did was we started an interruptions log. And we started logging who was interrupting him and for how long. And what we found is that he had up to 15 people per day walking into his office every single day, mostly with small things, mostly with questions that should have been decisions and problems that his team could and should have owned. So what we did was we put, instead of closing the door, we actually created a structure around the door. So instead of dropping in whenever they wanted, the team were encouraged to bring their questions to two 20-minute meetings each week. And in those meetings, everything was dealt with properly and nothing was lost. And this led to David getting back his thinking time, his team to having more ownership, and something that it wasn't really unexpected, but something did happen. The team started solving things themselves because they knew they were going to have to wait for answers until the next meeting. That could be 2 or 3 days away. Now, for me, structure isn't being unavailable. Structure is being intentional. Now, one of the most practical tools I give to clients when I first start working with them, pretty much after the first session, is a time audit, where for at least 1 week, 2 is better, 4 is probably even better. But in that time, you track your time at least every 30 minutes. So you write down exactly what you're doing. Not what you're supposed to be doing, not what you think you're doing, but what you're actually doing. Because something remarkable happens when you start measuring. Your awareness increases. You'll start to notice the patterns that are emerging. And often something uncomfortable surfaces because the diary tells the truth. Not your intentions, not your ambitions, the diary is that tells the truth. And most owners discover they're still doing tasks that they actually outgrew years ago, and they're doing them to save money. And this is a false economy because you can't build a higher level business while you're holding on to lower level work. Now, once you've completed your audit, in actual fact, before I forget, if you'd like a worksheet to help with that audit, just drop the word worksheet into the comments or DM me and I'll get it over to you. Okay, where was that? The time audit. So when you've completed that audit, look through the audit to discover your 5 biggest time wasters. You probably know what a couple of them are anyway. Now, they might be a person who's constantly, you've got a minute loss. It might be a recurring problem. It might be a broken process. It might be too many meaningless meetings. It might be a social platform. It might be an app. Perhaps it's tasks that should have been delegated months ago. But here's the thing, time wasters rarely disappear by accident. They've got to be found and they've got to be fixed deliberately, which leads us nicely into delegation. And this is where I hear the same thing pretty much constantly. Kev, I've tried this delegating thing, it just doesn't work. And my answer's pretty much always the same. Did you try delegation, or is what you did more akin to abdication? Because there's a sequence that works for delegation, and the sequence is systemise, train, delegate. Systemise, train, delegate. Now, if you skip to choose, or if you choose to skip any of the first two steps of that, one or two of them, it's going to end up like the task is going to be a bit like a boomerang. It's going to keep coming back to you. It's going to keep coming back to you because no one knows how you want it done. No one knows what the standard is. No one knows what success truly looks like because there's just too much ambiguity. And the truth is, poor delegation creates more work for you, whereby proper delegation creates freedom. Now, if you're one of those business owners that does have someone that works with you who does have a tendency to interrupt you, instead of asking why does, let's call him Fred, why does Fred keep bothering me, ask a better question, which could be something along the lines of what does Fred not yet have that would allow him to operate confidently without me? Does he need more training? Does he need a system? Does he need clearer authority? Does he need permission to make decisions? Because that's a leadership question. And it's leadership questions that lead to you building a business that isn't so dependent on you. Okay, now let me share with you a tool that I call the momentum map. This is where you go after you've done the audit. Let me just actually bring one up. I've got one. Here's one I prepared earlier. So this is the momentum map. It looks something like this. Yours is going to be totally different. Mine's different to this. This was just an example I used in a workshop. So the momentum map is where plan structure for your highest value, highest impact work actually happens. So it protects things like your sales time, your leadership time, your strategic thinking time, and it stops you becoming a prisoner to everyone else's agenda. And the truth is, if your diary isn't reflecting your priorities, your business doesn't reflect your goals. And you're also going to be giving away your biggest opportunities or your best energy is not going to opportunity, it's going towards things like your inbox. There's a universal law out there called the law of vacuum. And the law of vacuum states that whereas a vacuum, if you don't fill it, then nature will come along and fill it for you. So an example of that would be, this could be just me actually, by the way, but I don't know if you've ever tied out your garden shed and you go back a couple of weeks later, it's somehow full of crap again. Or if you were to put a table in a room, within a few days, it's going to have keys on it, or it's going to have magazines on it, or it's going to be covered in dust. It's going to be a dust attractor. Or is that just my house again? But the thing is, if you don't fill the time, then nature will come along and do this exactly the same thing. And the thing is, that's what this diary is about. If you don't block out the time and fill that vacuum of time with things that are most important, the high impact, high value activities in your business, then something's going to come along and steal that time off you. And the other thing is that the way I like to look at these appointments, these are appointments with your most valuable customer, because your most valuable customer is you. And you won't cancel an appointment with your most valuable customer, would you? So why do you cancel these appointments? So having this priorities first approach means that the most important work happens first, opposed to what usually happens is it gets squeezed in if there's any time left. Now, you may well ask, what am I going to do about all the reactive stuff that's asking outside of your control at the moment? And that's a really great question. And my suggestion would be is that you leave space for that in your diary. You leave space in this diary for reactive work. You'll be able to figure out the reactive work because you've done a time audit. You can see where the reactive work is. And even in the chaos, there'll be some form of order. There will be a certain amount of reactive work that's been thrown at you. So you can book it in. You can book in times to deal with reactive work. So let's just say a bit of chaos turns up on a Monday morning. You could just move that finance slot slightly, right, and put that reactive work in because you've allowed for it in your 40 hours that you want to work or however many hours it is you want to work. The goal with this is not perfection, put your teeth in, Kev. The goal with these things is progress. And now, let me just come out of that a minute. I'll come back into it shortly. Another habit that's worth thinking about before you leave work today is to write tomorrow's to-do list, or perhaps a more positive way of saying that is to write tomorrow's achieve list. But do it before you head home. Not tomorrow morning, do it today, because when you write your priorities before you leave, what happens is your subconscious mind starts getting to work on them overnight. And the more you put this into practice, what you'll find is happening, you'll end up arriving into work the next day with clarity, which means you arrive ready to execute. And there's another huge benefit to that, by the way, doing this list, is because most owners leave work physically, but they don't leave mentally. They're at home thinking about work, they're at work thinking about home. They're never fully present anywhere. So by writing tomorrow's list in advance, it helps close the mental loop, and it actually gives you permission to switch off. Now, something about this list, by the way, I prefer personally, is to have the list handwritten, not because technology is bad, but because handwriting forces us into thinking slightly differently. It slows us down a little bit. It makes us engage. So handwritten is best for me. So what you want to do is you want to start the list. What's the list? Then you want to prioritize the list. Which needs to happen first, which needs to happen second. There is a concept out there, eat that frog, which is the one you want to avoid most. Do that one first. Another valuable exercise is to actually estimate the time that it's going to take for each task. That's going to throw up a few conundrums because you're going to realise it might just be me, how bad I was at actually judging that time. And then what you want to do is you want to get these tasks into the diary. You want to plug these tasks into your diary or your momentum map. Because that's really simple, it's practical, and it's really effective. Now, another couple of rhythms that are worth building into your daily routine are a Friday list and to have a Monday, I suppose you could call it a work in progress meeting. So on Friday, everybody in the team creates their own list of next week's priorities. Then on Monday morning, everyone meets for a who's going to do what by when meeting. And we're going to look at where my tasks might be overlapping and what support's going to be needed for everybody to achieve what they want to achieve this week. And what you'll find with this structure in place is that your productivity is going to improve purely and simply because your communication is improved. By the way, a really good framework for that is Andy Bounds' lion meeting process. If you go on YouTube, I'm saying it's on YouTube, I'm not certain it is, but look it up. It's out there somewhere. Andy Bounds' lion meeting. Okay, let's bring this all together because one second, just bring me out of that. The truth is, none of this is really about time. It's about freedom. Because your business should be a vehicle that creates the life you want, not something consumed it. And that's why this connects to everything in my confidence system. And me and my bloody PowerPoint. Here we go. So inside this confidence system, you'll notice I'm looking up over there because that's where this is to me. So the clarity step asks, what lifestyle do you want? Then the navigation step, how do you want to get there and by when? The control level is all about how do we stop chaos from taking over. And then in nurture, we're asking how can we build a team of people so that business doesn't depend on you. And thrives asks, how can you create a business that supports your life? Because overall, the goal isn't better time management. The goal is freedom. So here's your challenge for the next 7 days. Firstly, audit and track your time at least every 30 minutes so that you can see the truth. By the way, and as a reminder, if you need the worksheet for that, just put worksheet in the comments or DM me and I'll get it over to you. Then from that audit, identify your 5 biggest time wasters. And I think I've already said, you probably already know a couple of those. And then thirdly, armed with that information, create your first draft of a momentum map. It's the first draft, don't expect perfection. And fourth, write tomorrow's list before you leave work tonight. And also ask yourself one honest question. If my diary reflected my priorities, what would I need to change tomorrow? Okay, if you've recognised yourself in any of this, and if you find yourself constantly reacting, if your business relies on you too heavily, or if your time is disappearing into work that someone else could and should be doing, I'd love for us to have a conversation. Not a sales call, but a proper conversation about where your time is really going, what's creating the unnecessary pressure, and what would it take to actually give you more time, more control, and more freedom. And if you want to have that conversation, just simply follow the link that's in the comments or DM me and reserve a time that suits you best. It'll take less than 30 minutes to book. Okay, here's the truth. If you don't control your time, you won't control your business. If you don't control your business, it becomes very difficult to create the life you originally started it from. Now, before you go, I just want to give you a quick heads up of where we're going in our next live. And we're going to be moving into finance. Because one of the biggest causes of stress in business, particularly at the moment with the environment, with the economic environment the way it is, it's not a lack of effort, it's a lack of financial visibility. Many business owners spend time worrying about money because they don't fully understand what's happening inside the numbers. So they know they're busy, they know the sales are coming in, but they don't know where the profit's disappearing. They don't know where the cash is going or how much they need to sell to feel safe or how close they might be to the danger zone. When that happens, every decision becomes more emotional. Every dip in sales feels bigger than it actually is. And growth starts to feel stressful instead of exciting. So in the live on Friday, same time, same place, we're going to look at the finance step in my confidence system and show you why revenue doesn't create freedom, but profit and cash do. So we're going to look at things like break-even, cash flow, pricing, profit leaks, and the financial numbers that every owner needs to know if they want to lead their business with confidence. Because when you understand the story that your numbers are telling you, you stop guessing, you stop worrying, and you can rewrite the story by making better decisions. So make sure you're following me if you don't want to miss it. But until then, go and create some real momentum. I'll see you on Friday. Thank you for joining me.